Any unstable individual can come up with a creepy fan theory about your favorite childhood cartoon, and that's why we call them fan theories. However, every once in a while we come across some that are just too compelling to ignore. Hope you guys enjoy top 10 cartoon conspiracy theories to ever exist. Number 10, the Fairly OddParents. This Nickelodeon cartoon is about the adventures of Timmy Turner, who is granted two fairly odd parents named Cosmo and Wanda. The reason why he has fairies is because of his miserable life. In the show, his parents are constantly ignoring him, his classmates bully him, and his babysitter tortures him. You'd expect his life to get better because he has an endless amount of wishes, but it never does. Some people believe that his fairies are metaphors for antidepressants. They are supposed to help him get through his struggles. Also, whenever Timmy abuses their magic, there's always a serious side effect. Another theory is that Mr. Crocker has been sexually abusing Timmy for years. This is why his teacher is always trying to steal his fairies, which actually represent Timmy's innocence, hope, and joy. Number 9, Batman the Animated Series. This theory will make you never look at the show the same way again. After tragically losing his parents, Bruce's life was forever changed. The villains he fights do not actually exist. He is just having a battle with his inner demons. Each villain in the show represents something different. Two-Face symbolizes his two different personalities. During the day, he's Bruce Wayne, the billionaire playboy. During the night, he's Batman, the vigilante who fights crime. Mr. Freeze represents how he can never maintain long-term relationships because he's always pushing people away from him. He knows that the people close to him always end up getting hurt the most. The Joker's main purpose is to show us all the insane thoughts Bruce has. This probably isn't true, but it's interesting to see how most of the villains have at least one thing in common with Batman. Number 8, Hey Arnold. The writers led us to believe that this show is about Arnold's life, but what if we're seeing this the wrong way? Maybe Hey Arnold was actually meant to be about Helga. This makes sense because she's the only character that ever gets monologues, and the title of the show is a quote directly from Helga. Her long speeches make it seem as if the story is being told from her perspective. The show spends so much time focusing on her personal issues and struggles. Her mother is an alcoholic, her father doesn't really care about her, and her family expects her to be as successful as her older sister. Also, she has a huge crush on Arnold but can never admit it. She pretends she hates him even though she's in love with him. For a character who isn't supposed to be the main, we sure do know a lot about her. Number 7, Tom and Jerry. This theory is literally going to ruin your childhood. Most people have grown up loving Tom and Jerry, not knowing that the show is filled with Nazi propaganda. This theory does make a lot of sense because the show came out in the 1940s, which is a year after the war started. It's not a coincidence that Tommies were British soldiers and Jerrys were Germans in World War II. The worst part about this theory is that Jerry is the good guy and the innocent character in the show, while Tom is portrayed as the villain. Even though Tom is much stronger than Jerry, he never wins. Since Jerry is very intelligent, he uses different strategies, which is how he ends up winning. Everyone should hope that this theory isn't true, because if it is, then that would mean that these writers are Nazi supporters. Number 6, the Magic School Bus. This theory will blow your mind. For this cartoon, there are two very unbelievable theories. The first one is that Miss Frizzle is a teacher of a special education class. This would explain why the class only has 8 students and why they're always going on a field trip. All of the adventures they go on are probably just in their imagination. The second theory is that the Magic School Bus kids grew up to be on Captain Planet. What if these two shows share the same universe? It's the only explanation to why each child in the Magic School Bus resembles one of the protagonists from Captain Planet. This theory states that Gaia kidnapped the children and brainwashed them into becoming protectors of the Earth. The main problem with this is that Captain Planet came out first. Number 5, Pinky and the Brain. Is Pinky the actual genius in the group? Some people believe that Pinky may in fact be the genius and Brain might be the insane one. Here are the supporting facts behind this theory. First of all, the intro theme says one is a genius, the other one's insane, but it doesn't identify who's who. More often than not, each episode features the Brain creating a plan in order to rule the world, Pinky having legitimate input, Brain brushing Pinky off, and the plan going terribly wrong because Brain doesn't listen to Pinky's advice in advance. Do you guys remember the episode where Brain goes on a game show and loses on a question that Pinky had the answer to? After that, we also learn that Pinky can read and Brain is hardly capable of writing his name. Another interesting episode that provides us with enough evidence to prove to us that Pinky is the genius where Brain calculates precisely what causes his plans to fail. The machine primarily faults Pinky, so Brain constructs a machine that makes Pinky into a genius, yet his personality doesn't appear to change at all. Pinky then points out that Brain had a mistake in his previous calculations and he's the one to blame for his failed schemes. Number 4, the Rugrats theory. This is perhaps the most common, unsettling theory of them all, but it's worthy mention because it's just that crazy. Here's the overall gist of the theory. The babies are just an illusion of Angelica's crazy imagination. The DeVelles had an abortion and Angelica couldn't decide if it was going to be a boy or girl, so she went with twins. Chucky died along with his mother, which explains the overly worried mess of a grown man that his father, Chaz, always is. Then there's Tommy. People believe Tommy was a stillborn, which explains why his dad keeps building toys in his basement. They're all for the dead son who never lived to play them. And Susie was apparently Angelica's only real-life friend, and she just went along with the outrageous fantasies for Angelica's sake. Number 3, Mr. Dink. This theory states that Doug's neighbor, Mr. Dink, was a child predator who was on the lookout for Doug, which is the reason why Doug had to take LSD that he stole from his sister's room, Judy, as a coping mechanism. Here's the imagination stretching evidence to back those allegations. Mr. Dink always attempts to invite Doug into his house and show him some very expensive high-tech gadget. Even in the first episode when they met, Mr. Dink demanded Doug into coming over in order to watch a video. Also, there's a point in the show where Dink offers Doug a chance to work in his forcefully secured shed. Mr. Dink has no children, but is the leader of Doug's Bluff Scout troop. There is an episode where Doug, Skeeter, and Mr. Dink get lost while canoeing. Dink says he's going to search for camp, and when Doug and Skeeter go after him, they find him butt naked in a tree, claiming to lose his pants. Climbing a tree nude while in the wilderness with two 11-year-old boys? That's kind of weird, guys. His sister Judy never wanted Doug in her room. It's a strongly enforced rule. And in an episode where Doug went through Judy's belongings, she's extremely annoyed. Why? Because obviously she's got a ton of LSD in there and doesn't want Doug finding and or mooching on her stash. The LSD explains all of Doug's delusions. Also, there was an episode where Doug is home alone and sneaks into Judy's room and later, while in the basement, begins hallucinating. Yeah, this cartoon theory is a little far-fetched, but it's still fun and interesting to look at in different angles. Number 2, Toy Story 3. According to film critic Jordan Hoffman, Toy Story 3 is totally about the Holocaust. The Holocaust theory about the Toy Story really caught the attention of the millions of people on the internet because of the surprising number of parallels between the lighthearted story about talking toys and one of humanity's greatest tragedies. This story starts when the Jewish people, represented by the toys, are left behind by their host nations at the onset of World War II, which is represented by Andy going off to college. At this point, the toys leader Woody recommends to hide in the attic, kinda like Anne Frank style, but they quickly get caught and shipped off to Sunnyside Daycare, you know, a place where the Jews were sent, kind of like the concentration camps, and mistreated by the little children, which are closely related to the Nazis. The abusive toys who lived in Sunnyside are the version of the Jewish police who helped push their fellow Jews into trains for Auschwitz. Because of them, the main characters end up in a conveyor belt, headed straight for the oven. There was even a sad scene where the toys grab hands and accept their fate. And then, of course, they get saved by toy aliens, who obviously stand for the Lion's power. The characters eventually relocate to a new place where many of their kind already live and have an established foothold. Number 1, the Pokemon theory. Have you ever wondered that the pacing, tone, and story progression of Pokemon changes after Ash is hit by lightning in the early episodes? How Ash and his world are relatively normal until after the incident? So here's the theory behind this famous cartoon. It is believed that the accident with his bike put Ash into a coma. Days later after the accident, Ash was found barely alive on the floor and was quickly rushed to the hospital and treated with heavy doses of medication. The medication took effect and stabilized his coma dreams. The drugs allowed him to live out his Pokemon Master fantasies. The coma and fantasy explains why his body never really changes throughout the course of the show. It also explains the universal socialism as he created up a safe government structure that would run smoothly and keep the world going, allowing his journeys to continue. As always, thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more. I will see you all in the next video.